So annoying.
All right. We're live.
Whew, goodness Lord.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and start dropping the link. If I can find it. Here we go. All right.
Goodness. I feel like I'm just like sprinting.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I was in the middle of watching the new Skeleton Crew episode, and I was like, oh, I think I can squeeze it in before we have to go live. And then I barely had like 5 minutes left, and I was like, gotta get ready now.
How are you liking it?
I'm really enjoying it again. It's such a fun show, and it looks infinitely better than like every other Disney Plus show aside from Andor. So
I think I still contend that I agree with you mostly. I still contend that Mando looks fantastic.
A lot of Mando does, but also some of it doesn't. But like I think just in speaking of consistency, because we're 4 episodes in now, it's just like been consistently like visually great.
Yeah.
Which like I can't say the same for Mando, because like sometimes it'll look incredible, and then other times with certain people behind the director's chair, I'm like, dang it, dude.
I still think with Mando, for the most part, like in the 3rd season, you had I think the Jack Black episode was a hiccup visually and in every other way. But then, I mean, I'm thinking through season 1, and even like the episode that I think is super weak in season 1, I still think the visuals are good. And in season 2, I think the visuals are good too. I think it's pretty freaking consistent and longer. It's been around for 24 episodes now. So I'm going to put Skeleton Crew up there with Andor and Mando personally. But dude, I'm with you though. The show, I mean, I haven't gotten to watch tonight's episode. I'll watch whenever we're done. But I freaking love the show so far.
Yeah, I'm seriously enjoying it. And also like I'm not trying to throw shade at Mando again, but
yes, you are.
I'm liking the writing a little bit more in Skeleton Crew so far.
Mando is not known for a coherent, overarching story. That's not what Mando is.
And sometimes there's basically no story at all.
Yeah, and honestly, like that's kind of one reason that I loved it the first 2 seasons, and I still actually really love the 3rd season for the most part. But I think some of us have talked about season 3, and that like the biggest issue with season 3 is that they tried to do the overarching thing, and it's just not what the show is. And I just think the episode to episode thing with Mando is just that is where that show is at its best.
Yeah.
When they try to venture too far outside of that, like, and I mean, to give them credit, I mean, they really went for it in some ways with season 3, and I appreciate that. Also, just Gory and Shard. Enough said.
That episode was so freaking good, dude.
But again, that episode was, if I'm remembering correctly, that episode was kind of standalone, and their best stuff tends to be that, you know.
I agree.
So yeah, but as a cohesive season so far, I agree with you. Skeleton Crew's written much better, tighter.
Yeah,
on the writing there. We got a few people in here.
I see that.
If you're here, please let us know who you
say
are.
Say hello.
And yeah, let us know that you're here. Say hello. Weird. We went from 5 to 1.
I saw that.
Just like that.
5 bots turn on this just lamp. Joined in.
I know, right? I'm gonna turn on this lamp back here real quick.
All right.
I was hoping these Christmas lights over here in the window would add an ambiance to the room, but on the camera, it sure did not.
Rip.
Yeah, not good at all. Man. Okay. I think other than opening up YouTube, I think I'm pretty set here. Let's go. All right. Yeesh. Cool. I'm ready.
All right. Same here. So I guess since you weren't here last week, feel like we should do like a good old, you know, what's the last few things that you watched?
Oh yeah.
But also I'm glad that you're feeling better.
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah, last week was bad. Oh, yeah, good to be back. Good to be talking movies again. But now my son has walking pneumonia.
Ooh.
So that's fun.
It's not good.
It's been like just a sick week. Like he had the stomach thing first, and then I did. And then Kendall had something. And then now he has this. It's just like nonstop.
Hate that.
Yeah, it's awful. But we're here. We're all right. But I don't know if you want to do like an intro or whatever.
Yeah. So what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Banter Fodder podcast. It's not been too long since we last did our live stream, but for Michael it has been because he wasn't feeling well the last week. So like I was saying earlier, glad to have Michael back. And in traditional fashion, I say we just start off, you know, talking about some of the recent watches that we've had. And also I forgot to mention Jimmy Jam isn't here with us this evening, which sucks.
Yeah.
So we're doing another episode with Man Down. But I'm really looking forward to this movie whenever we get around to talking about it in a little bit.
Me too. Yeah, definitely sucks to have James gone now that I'm feeling better.
Yeah.
But yeah, in particular, I feel like this movie, I really want to hear James talk about this movie because I feel like it would be great. So maybe we'll revisit it every Christmas season. Let's do that.
Ooh, that would be fun. Honestly, like I'm not against revisiting movies that we've already covered.
I think Christmas movies are a natural thing for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially like there's only so many great ones to cover unless we start just going
What are you
through all
talking
of
about, man? They just made Red 1 and now they're probably going to make a Red 2.
Crap, that's 2 weeks in December we got to cover next week, and then we got to do a Hallmark one or two.
Dude, I would be down for doing
I would
Hallmark.
for sure be down to do. What's that one James keeps talking about that you actually did watch?
Gosh, why am I blanking on the name of it?
Hey,
I think it's My Christmas Love or something like that.
I think that's right because I always think Endless Love. The song gets in my head right off the bat. We got some people in here. If you are,
I see that.
If you're in the chat, let us know who you are. Drop some comments. Let us know your favorite Christmas movies. I think that would be a fun little thing to get going. Let us know your favorite Christmas movies.
And also let us know just like what are the last like 5 movies that you watched, whether they're in theaters or not.
Yeah. I can get started with that, huh?
Yeah.
Not 5. But so I have been on the Bondathon that so many of our friends have been on. I am just much slower with it. I'm way behind everyone else, but I did finally watch Diamonds Are Forever, and I've already forgotten it. It was terrible. It was honestly really bad. Like, what even is that movie? Like, just I was just like, okay, so stuff's just like. Have you ever watched pitch meeting videos on YouTube? Yeah. So he's like, okay, so stuff's just happening now. Like that's what I that's what I felt like watching that movie. Like I literally remember nothing. Nothing at all about that movie. And that, bummer because I do love Connery as Bond, but he's definitely losing steam. I can tell he just wants to get paid at this point.
Hey, at least though the intro song goes super hard.
The intro song goes hard. The intro itself was terrible. The intro song was awesome. I think we're getting pretty consistent good songs at this point. Mostly. But yeah, I don't want to spend more time on that one. That movie was bad. I can't wait, but I'm at the Roger Moore era. So
sick.
Depending on how I feel tonight after I watch Skeleton Crew, we'll see. Maybe I'll start that. We'll see. Now, the other thing of note that I have watched, other than I started watching Schitt's Creek from the beginning when I was sick. Nice. I watched like 7 episodes and I still love that show so much. I was so happy to find out that Interstellar 10th anniversary screenings were coming to Little Rock because I was really we were talking about it last week. I was furious that they had like 10 cities across the country or something like that it was showing, and it was like all like the big 70 millimeter whatever, like none of us could ever go to for the most part. And I was just like, God, come on, Chris, like you released this in regular theaters the first time. Let's not pretend this is only an IMAX movie. But thankfully they did release it, and in the IMAX here in Little Rock we got some show times, and I caught one. And oh my gosh, you guys, like I will say, aside from, it's IMAX, so I had to go to the crappy AMC theater, and which is the exact theater that I saw Furiosa in with Josh Mesker, where the air conditioning didn't work and it was super submersive because it was
40
really
experience.
Hot. Yeah. Same exact theater, no bad issues except the sound is just always super tinny in there. It's not there's like hardly any low end, so it didn't hit as hard as it should, and it was kind of piercing.
Weird.
Yeah. That theater just is terrible. Don't go. But that could not stop this movie from being everything. We've talked about this movie on the pod in the past, and I had a couple of major issues with it. I won't get into them here, but one of the issues I was actually able to reconcile on this watch, and
Yes.
the other issues that I have with the movie are so little. Like honestly, the biggest problem I have with with this movie is Topher Grace is just in another movie. He is not. He does not belong in this movie. When he's acting in it, he is doing something else, and everyone's like, "What are you doing?" Like he is so ridiculous in this movie, and I hate it. Like it's like the one part now that I'm like, I wish this wasn't in there. But even that cannot take away from now. It is a 5-star movie for me. And
Yes,
now I don't
sir.
have to do that talking point of, well, it's a 4.5 star, but it's better than some 5 stars. And I stand by the the logic there. But I don't have to do that anymore because it's a 5-star. It just is. It's just
It
I don't
always
think
was.
it I just didn't know it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that between the emotional resonance combined with the ridiculous visuals and the score, Hans Zimmer's best score as far as I'm concerned, and also just the the ginormous swing for the fence that third act is. I and every time I watch it, it works better and better and better, and it's just incredible. I cannot believe that movie exists.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a great experience. Crappy theater aside, it was great. And I will say the crappy theater does have one perk: free refills, even on ices. Got to give it to them. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they have to compensate in some way.
They're like, we know we suck. Here's some free drinks.
Yeah.
Hey, we got some more people in here.
Yeah, I see we got more people in here. You should let us know what your favorite Christmas movie is. Also, leave some thoughts on It's a Wonderful Life.
Please do. Seriously, like you guys have been in here for a while. Let's see some comments. We definitely want to respond to you guys tonight.
Yeah.
We want to make you guys part of the whole
Part of the conversation.
episode and conversation for sure.
Yeah.
What have you been watching, Drew?
Yeah, so I have been watching Bond as well. Although I haven't watched any since like the beginning of last week, but tonight I'm gonna start the next one on my list. But I finally finished the Moore era, which sadly ended on two really weak notes. Which is unfortunate because the two films before those, I think, are like there's one that's like absolutely fantastic, and then there's another one that's incredibly underrated and overlooked, and I think it's super awesome.
The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker?
Yes.
Just judging by the conversations, I picked that up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was a fan of both.
Moonraker's the underrated.
Yes, Moonraker is definitely the underrated one. But yeah, awesome movie. What a movie. I also watched War of the Rohirrim on the big screen.
Oh yeah.
And I was really disappointed.
Oh no.
Yeah. Obviously, like I didn't know how to really gauge my expectations, I guess, but I was just excited to be like returning to Middle Earth, like specifically Peter Jackson's Middle Earth, and just getting immersed in that world again, and seeing like the first animated film in Peter Jackson's Middle Earth. I was like, all right, this could be really cool. And I also thought it was like a really interesting way to like tell another story without just doing something that feels pointless or that's just feeling like solely a cash grab. Like I really like, without like giving any spoilers away, the film is kind of set up as almost like someone is essentially retelling like an old legend or like an old story. And I feel like it kind of like ties into the way that the Lord of the Rings trilogy is told, or the way that the Hobbit trilogy is told, where like, you know, at the beginning of the film you've got like Frodo, or you got Bilbo like narrating like, you know, about what you're about to watch. So I really like that they kind of did that again. And I think like if they want to keep making these spin-offs, sticking in that space of like, hey, we're just telling these stories, and you know, maybe we'll get a returning character from the trilogy, from the Lord of the Rings trilogy or the Hobbit trilogy, telling these stories. I think that's a genius way to do it. But sadly, the film was just super disappointing. I think it's really derivative. I think that the characters are half baked, most of them, if not almost all of them. I did really like the main villain. I thought that he was fantastic. His performance is great, and I also think that his motivations are really strong. Um, but I thought the lead character was super bland, and I thought she was far too stoic to be our lead character, or at least portraying her in that way. Like they just they didn't have enough there to like really warrant that, I feel like. So
yeah, if you're gonna have a stoic lead, there better be a lot underneath.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately there wasn't. So I don't know, but I gave it 2.5 stars on Letterboxd, but I also gave it the like heart as well, because I liked it more than I disliked it. The only reason why I gave it a 2.5 rather than like a 3-star is because like the problems that I have with it are prominent enough to where it's just holding it back from being like a pretty good movie, in my opinion. So, but I definitely like recommend seeing it, because I mean, I had chills whenever whenever the movie first started. I'm like, all right, we're back, baby. Like it's that same kind of feeling that you get when you watch a new Star Wars movie. So
what's that like? I don't know what that's like.
Yeah, dude, I kind of forgot what that's like. We'll see if we get that feeling again with the next one.
The last Star Wars movie we saw in the theaters started with "The Dead Speak."
Somehow Palpatine has returned. Oh, what a movie.
That's a good.
But yeah, and then because James and I covered the Muppets Christmas Carol, it got me in the Muppets mood. So I started watching a bunch of Muppets movies. So far I've rewatched Muppet Treasure Island, which is amazing. I watched the Great Muppet Caper for the first time. Super fun. Really liked it a lot. And then I rewatched the original Muppet movie from the 70s. And I haven't seen that since I was a kid, and it's freaking awesome. It holds up super well, and it's super funny. And honestly, the Great Muppet Caper is really funny too. Like there's just this running gag the entire film that keeps getting brought back up of Kermit and Fozzie being identical twins. And it hits every time. And it's just like this running gag throughout the whole movie. So it's just it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I'm definitely I'm gonna continue rewatching and then also watching all of the Muppet films that I haven't seen before. And I have not been going in release order or anything. I've just been kind of picking and choosing them. So I don't know which one's next, but
man,
we'll
that's
see.
Awesome. That's awesome. The other night I got out of, hey, Stone is here.
What's up, Stone?
Stone, you're part of this. The story I was just about to tell. I
wow,
got
out. This guy Stone, he says, "Hello, this movie rocks." Nice pun, dude.
Nah. I got out of Interstellar the other night, and I was just like, I'm gonna text the chat and tell them, do like a big voice message and tell everybody about this experience. It's like just this amazing thing. And it's like a 5-minute long voice message. And I sent it, and like for the most part, it hit, and then nothing. And then everyone was just like, cool, but I've been watching the Muppets and this is awesome. like literally everyone was watching the Muppets Treasure Island, and I was like, boo. So like,
Oh man.
I was like, I needed y'all to understand how great this experience is, and y'all are like, I'm watching the Muppets. Who cares?
The Muppets is cinema. All right.
I'm not disputing that. I just hate them at this moment.
That's fair.
Yeah, that was funny. But yeah,
the real wonderful life is the friends we made along the way.
That's right.
From Elliot Ribello.
That's great. Elliot, I don't recognize your name. Welcome to the show.
I don't either. Yeah, welcome.
Shall we get going on this thing?
Yeah, let's do it. So I say we just kind of like start this off with just general thoughts of the film. And if it warrants it, maybe a little history of the movie, of like your first experience watching it or anything like that. But yeah, I think just getting some quick thoughts out before we like dive deep into the film would be a good starting point. So obviously, Michael, since you're the only co-host with me right now, we're going with you, buddy.
We got Stone and Elliot here.
Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah. I'll definitely start with a little history because there's a lot here for me. This movie, this is a movie that my parents started making a Christmas Eve tradition in our household as far back as I can remember. I don't know what age it was, but I know that it has to have been at least 20 years. So I mean, it must have been when I was 10 or 12 that I started. I've watched this movie at least once a year, every single year for the last 20 years or so. And at first, it was the movie that we got to every Christmas Eve that I was like not excited to watch because I'd rather watch Home Alone or whatever.
Die Hard.
Not even back then. I wasn't a big Die Hard guy back then. I didn't know cinema back then when I was 11. Okay.
Gosh.
Except Star Wars, obviously. But as I've gotten older, I probably started to develop an appreciation for it more around my college years. And then after that, every single year, I noticed at one point I couldn't watch it without crying. And now it's literally like I cry at multiple points, and I like at the end, it's just like forget about it. Like I can't even see the screen because I'm not just tearing up; I'm like bawling. It's so much of the movie is so tough to watch, and then the end is like the happiest ending to any movie ever made. It's just like it swells in happiness at just the right moment. And I mean, we're going to talk about there's so much to talk about with this movie, but I will just say this is a very important movie for me. This is not just my favorite Christmas movie now, and it's not even close. Like this is my favorite Christmas movie by a long shot. This is a top 10 movie for me, period. And that's, I don't have any other Christmas movies remotely close to my top 10. And, this is one of those movies that, like, if you wanted to try and argue with me that it's not a Christmas movie, I think you're stupid. But I somewhat, I somewhat can understand to a degree because it's not about Christmas. But you could, basically my point is you could take Christmas out of it and it's still just an absolutely beautiful film about love and about like friendship and perspective in life and sacrifice, and it's it's just the ultimate movie to me. Like, there's not an ounce of me every single year when it comes time to rewatch this movie. There's not an ounce of me that's like, all right, I got to force myself to get into the mood or what. No. I'm like, I'm ready to go. And it's just one of the best movies I've ever seen. And yeah, I can't wait to get super into it. But it's I cannot say enough good things about this movie.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I don't honestly, I can't remember when I first watched it. Like, cause I don't think it wasn't like a movie that I grew up with like watching every year. It wasn't like a tradition that was made up until recently. I mean, like I had definitely seen it before when I was a kid, but I haven't made it like a regular yearly watch up until like a few years ago. And now it's like it's cemented. I need this to be once a year watch at least every year for the holiday season. But yeah, I totally agree with you. It's also my favorite Christmas film, uh, by by a pretty good chunk. Although I will say I do love the Muppet Christmas Carol, and
That's up there, man. For
yeah,
sure.
it's probably a close second for me. But yeah, this film is incredible. Not just as a Christmas film, but as a film on its own. As a story, it's fantastic, and I think it's one of those films where you don't have to just watch during Christmas time. There's so much to it that you can watch it any time of the year, even though Christmas still is like at the center of the film. Um, it plays into like the beginning and the end of the film. So, um, yeah, I think it's just an excellent film in every sense of the word. Um, the cinematography is stunning. Like every single frame of this film looks absolutely gorgeous. And especially on this rewatch, I was just like, man, they were cooking, like really cooking with this film. And then also, I love how stylistic this film is. It opens up in space with talking planets and galaxies as
They're
angels.
They're angels. Come on.
Like
that's Joseph you're talking about.
yeah, but like
Joseph.
like what what even, like how did they like think of this? And then also it's got an amazing sense of humor. It's got so much heart. It'll rip your heart out, but it'll also piece it back together. Um so I think it just kind of it has everything that I want and need from a Christmas film. Um but honestly, real quick, I like you mentioned earlier how like, you know, you'd fight people who think it's not a Christmas film. In your opinion, like what actually makes a Christmas movie for you?
So, oh man, this is a rabbit hole I did not come prepared to defend. But to me, it's kind of you know it when you see it. No. I think for me, there just has to be enough, whether it's thematic or story beats that are centered around Christmas. And then there also has to be, for me, for it to be a Christmas movie, and this was kind of the uh, uh, the thing that made me consider, oh yeah, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Not only is it happening at Christmas or Christmas Eve or whatever, it's also there's also at least one Christmas carol or Christmas, like popular Christmas song. There has to be a musical element. there has to be something like Home Alone doesn't have, that could have taken place on New Year's Day for all I care, but it didn't. It took place on Christmas. And so it is a Christmas movie. I don't have a big list of criteria for a movie to be a Christmas movie. It doesn't have, there's not a whole lot that it has to do. But for me, It's a Wonderful Life meets that criteria with multiple Christmas songs, saying and yelling the words Merry Christmas to everybody, including Mr. Potter. Merry Christmas, Mr. Potter. You know, them literally singing Hark the Herald together. And then you know, and then it happening on Christmas. There is just so much there that's like, of course it's a Christmas movie. And then like themes of giving and stuff help a lot, but I don't even need that. I don't need that. It's literally just, does it feel Christmassy? Does it take place on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve? And is there a Christmas song or two?
Yeah.
That's all. It's not hard to be a Christmas song. Die Hard is a Christmas song because it meets all of those criteria. Stone.
So Stone said it's a Christmas film. The only minor inclusion of Christmas in the film can be made up in its themes and overall vibe. Die Hard is not a Christmas film, though. And then Bingus Bongus.
Who's Bingus Bongus? I love this name. I don't even want to know who this is.
Okay, yeah, it's my buddy Jonah.
Okay.
He said if It's a Wonderful Life isn't a Christmas movie, then neither is Home Alone.
Correct. And Home Alone is, and so It's a Wonderful Life is.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And also Die Hard is. I'll get to that in a second. Stone says a huge emotional climax occurs on Christmas Day, so it's impossible to separate the feeling of Christmas from the experience.
Yep.
I agree. But to fight Stone real quick, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Here's why. Christmas is at the center of the film. It has all of the Christmas themes in it, even though it is an action film. It has all of the Christmas themes in it. It has, getting the family together, reconciling with your family, like during the holidays. Like, family is the core theme of the film. And like the lengths that McClane goes to like protect that, I think just really, for me, I think it really does hit all of those Christmas notes. And it also has Christmas music in it, and it's got Christmas imagery. Like it is a Christmas film. And that's true. Exactly why every shot in Home Alone is. Yes.
Is this true? If this is true, that's amazing. I don't know if
I'd have to go back and rewatch it, but it feels just like it. Sole purpose. Maybe that's what I'll do tonight. But yeah, I think like just judging on that criteria, that's why It's a Wonderful Life is a Christmas movie to me, because it has all of the themes, even though it's not Christmas imagery 24/7. You get it. It has all the themes that you get in a Christmas film. It has the Christmas music. It takes place mostly during like the winter and snow, and like it just has everything that you would feel in a Christmas movie.
Mm-hmm.
And don't just take my word for it. Even Wikipedia says it's a Christmas film.
And you should believe everything that they say.
Exactly. No, I just had to throw that in there. But yeah, I guess let's go ahead and like jump into this. So I think I kind of wanted to start off with just the emotional like weight of this film, because it's not a typical Christmas movie. Like there's so many Christmas films that I can think of, like Home Alone, for example, or A Christmas Story, that are like these Christmas classics, but you're not going to get the same emotional weight as you would with something like It's a Wonderful Life. or even the Muppet Christmas Carol. Like we were saying earlier, this movie like wrecks us. And I think that's part of the reason why I love it so much, because you go through this complete like journey of George Bailey as a character, and seeing him from the start of the film as a kid, and then like leading on into adulthood, and like just having this like massive span of time, and seeing how his character progresses and changes over time, I think just really makes, and also just the emotional journey that he goes through, I think really makes the ending feel so earned. I think if this was just a happy film 24/7, I don't think it would hit the same way. I don't think that like Christmas spirit that you get at the end would feel like nearly as sweeping as it does. Yeah. It's just it's what makes this film stand out to me amongst all the other Christmas classics.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say George Bailey is one of the best characters ever written for the screen. Like, in my opinion, right away you fall in love with him. Like, as a kid, you see him like not even hesitate to jump in and save his brother. You see him, do the right thing and not deliver those pills to the lady, and then get beaten by Mr. Gower. And like that moment wrecks me every single time, because not only because, well, it's tough to watch because obviously that's awful, him getting beaten, but like also Mr. Gower is like, it just found out his son died, and then like the immediate turn that you see in him, like obviously there is a moment in me every time I watch it where I'm like, okay, well, we can't excuse what you just did, but like, I'm like, you know what I mean? But I do really, that moment whenever he realizes what he did and what could have happened, and him talking with George talking to kid George there, and George just begging him to not hurt his ear, like not hit his hurt ear again, like, it wrecks me, dude. It is it's such a moment, and it's just like from that point in the movie, you're like, okay, this movie is not a normal movie. Like, what have I gotten myself into? And
if the angels didn't like worry you enough, like
they did not warn me enough, because I was not prepared. And I'm not prepared at all every year, even though I know it's coming. But then we cut to adult George, and he's like, I want a big one. And from that point on, it's just like George just repeatedly, one thing after another, gets kind of beaten down by life. And a lot of the times it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a good thing happening for someone else. And him being selfless and making a sacrifice. And, what you see is like every sacrifice he makes brings him further away from what he thinks that he wants to do. But every sacrifice he makes, everything that every time he chooses to serve someone in the community over himself, that is a penny in the bucket going towards what happens at the very end of the movie. You know what I mean? Like, that is it feels like it makes that part so incredibly powerful, because if something like that happened to Mr. Potter, he would literally be like in his room all alone, and then the cops would come get him, and nobody would care. Everybody would celebrate. Yeah. But because of George, and because of his stamp on the community, and because he has always put others before himself, whether it's families or like his family or a stranger that he doesn't know, that he helps get into a decent house to live in. And it's whatever the situation is, he becomes someone in the community that literally everyone wants to help as soon as they hear that George is in any remotely little bit of trouble. And I just think seeing his journey going from, like, you really feel every one of those sacrifices that he makes. That's like, oh, George, don't do it. This, like, just take care of you just this one time, George.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do it. He doesn't ever do it. And he eventually hits his bottom, right? He hits his rock bottom. And
yeah,
when you're at that rock bottom point, you will listen to the absolute worst thing that is being said, which is, you're worth more dead than alive. And I think it's incredibly powerful. I think it's really relatable. Not that everyone can relate to having suicidal thoughts. A lot of people can, but like, just the weight of, or having that feeling of being almost trapped in this life, even if you love your family, even if you love you love the things in your life that you have built, you still had these plans that you kept putting on the back burner. And not only that, now you've actually got now you're actually in trouble. Like, now you're actually in trouble. And by the way, because of someone else, not even because of you. And it's just like, life just keeps hitting you, and it's not fair. It's not fair. We can all relate to that in some way. And to see, because of the way that we get the perspective from Clarence, it really is it's not just a movie that's like really emotionally powerful. It's very emotionally powerful. It's emotionally powerful because of, I mean, it kind of helps us to, it helps me every year have a little perspective. Like, it's not just a movie I watch. This movie is like something I'm like, man, I have it good. It's just like, it's, yeah. And again, the character of George Bailey is at the center of that, and how well he's written.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Real quick, we got a lot of comments in, so I'm just gonna read a few of them.
Oh.
So Nick said, "Never seen it. Should I check it out?" Absolutely. Nick, just knowing your taste in movies, I think that you'd really enjoy it. It's phenomenal. Yeah, as good old Bingus Bongus is saying, it's not a should watch, it's a must watch.
I completely agree. If you like beautiful, but also really funny and warm and enjoyable films, but also gut punch films, but also films that look incredible, you should watch this. This is literally one of the best movies ever made, and that's not just me. That's not just me being hyperbolic. It is.
Yeah. And then Bingus Bongus also has a few other comments. So, back to the Mr. Gower scene, he said that moment also showcases George a sense of forgiveness because he doesn't hold it against Mr. Gower, which I think is also really powerful, and it says a lot about his character. And then another comment that he had: if you want to get even more technical about it, the entire film is about one gift, the gift of the life of one Mr. George Bailey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a Christmas movie.
Yep. It is a Christmas movie.
Our good old buddy Curry, he says, "Sorry guys, saw 2 movies tonight. Love the movie y'all are discussing though. One of my favorite Christmas movies."
Miss you, Curry.
Yes. And then we won Stone over. He said, "Die Hard does involve a man trapped at a Christmas function that he'd rather be very far away from." And on that note, now that I think about it, What's more Christmas than that?
You know, you're not far off there, but
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Just let me know when you need me for the Damien Chazelle / La La Land episode. Well, funny enough, we did do a Whiplash episode, but
We'll
La
do
La
La La
Land.
Land one day. Don't worry. Yeah,
Yes, La La Land is
given.
definitely one that I'd love to do, and it actually would be really fun if we had you as a guest. Nick is like the biggest La La fan that I know, and like La La Land fan that I know, and I'm a pretty big La La Land fan. So,
yes, you are. Even like I love that movie. You're a bigger fan of it than I am. I like Whiplash better. I think you like La La Land a little better, right? Am I right about that?
It's so tough. I like flip flop between the two, but
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, Nick says it's the best movie ever made, and
yeah, can't go there, but I don't blame you.
I can't deny that you'd feel that way because it's definitely up there for me. La La Land is a Christmas movie.
Okay, well. Oh man, going back to Bingus Bongus. I can't say it for real. Sorry. He bringing back up the forgiveness and Mr. Gower. Like that is one of the reasons why at the end, dude, like there's so many things that the end does that make me like that add another layer of tears. But it's like with everyone coming in and dumping the money on the table, for some reason every time it's Mr. Gower that gets me the most because of where he was at the beginning of the movie. He's literally alive because of George. Like he's like George literally not only kind of saved his freedom. He could have been in jail. He also I really think he saved his life because he could have been in a really bad way. And just I don't know, seeing from the beginning of the movie and then seeing Mr. Gower get him his luggage, buy him his luggage at the beginning of the movie, and then have that moment at the end. It was just like, oh my gosh, every time Mr. Gower's on screen. I think part of it's just the actor too. There's something about his face just makes me cry like instantly. But I just wanted to add that to the Mr. Gower point. It's just that part is really tough to watch, but it's also really, really well done.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to kind of go back to what we were talking about earlier, I think one thing I really like about this film, because like, George Bailey is kind of this idealistic man. Like he's helping everyone that he can in his community. He's helping his family. He's sacrificing so much of himself. But I really love like how flawed he is as a character too.
Yes.
It's not like he's like pitch perfect all the time. And like, and it's not always like he's helping people because I feel like that's just all he knows in a way. And we see he can't help but help people. But like just seeing that take a toll on him, because like, you can only do so much as one person. Like, at the end of the day, he's just human. And so I think just seeing the way that all of that weighs down on him, to where he reaches that tipping point, to when he reaches rock bottom, I think just makes the film so much more powerful, because it's like, it is relatable to, like, if you're the kind of person who does go out of your way to help people as often as you can, if you don't take time to yourself, if you don't also look out for yourself, then you can't look out for other people. It'll take its toll on you. And so I think it's just like a very like earnest film about giving, about helping your community. And gosh, lost my other train of thought.
No, but I agree. It's watching him from the beginning of the movie, whenever, whether it's like, fast forwarding through, we already talked about the stuff he did as a kid. And then as an adult, his brother coming back from school and it's his turn now. It's his, like, he already was supposed to be the first one, but he stuck around to selflessly run the building and loan that he wanted to never, he wanted that thing to be gone out of his life. But he just he could not sit with the idea that Potter would shut that down and then he'd have a monopoly on the housing in the town, in the community. And so he stuck around and did that, let his brother, if I remember right, he used his brother used his money, right? His brother used George's money to go to college, right? Am I right about that? I might be wrong.
So.
I think he used George's money to go to school. And then he comes back and George is thinking it's his turn now. And he comes back and his brother's married and going to potentially take another job somewhere else. It's not final, but it's close enough to the point where George is like, now tell me about this job. And is it a good opportunity for my brother? He wants, and he's like, now I can't not let him do that. And that feeling, I think we've all been, I don't know, maybe unless I'm just a terrible person, but I think we've all been there at someone's, like, you have a friend or a close relative or something, you're celebrating them. And at some point you think, when is this going to happen for me?
Yeah.
Like,
when is it
he got to go to college. My brother's got to go to college. My brother got to found a wife and she's awesome. And then your mom is not helping things. Your mom's like, when you get married and like all that. And you're just like, when is it my turn? Yeah. And like that, seeing George at that moment he's just kind of grouchy. I don't blame him at all. At all. I'm like, yeah. Have your sulk, man. I get it. And, but yeah, it's like every step of the movie, there's another sacrifice that George makes. And it really is beautiful. It really is beautiful. And yeah, okay. Bingus Bongus says, George gave Harry his money for college. He came back with a wife and job after, with a job offer and a college degree of all of the things George wanted. Yes.
Yeah.
Except George wants to travel and see the world as well. That's like his big thing. Because he's cooped up in this town and he's the one running the building and loan still, which can I just say too, I love that conversation that he had with his dad at the beginning when his dad wanted him to take over the building and loan, but he was honest with him. And his dad was like, disappointed. It was a real disappointment, but also a real, like, no, you can't, you have to do what you feel is right for you. And it was like a real moment. And then he's like, you know what, Dad, I think you're a real swell guy. And it was just this really wonderful little moment. It was a real moment. It wasn't just like they were sweeping it under the rug. It was like, no, hard conversation, but I love you. And it was like I buy their father-son dynamic,
Yeah. Even when he's a kid and he's like standing up for his dad, to Mr. Potter.
Yeah. You're the biggest man in town.
But I think because they lay that groundwork, like their relationship is just like very convincing. Mm-hmm. You can really like buy into it. Bingus Bongus, again, people like to trash on George for being grouchy about it, but then forget that he's 23 years old. At that time, I can't imagine a 23-year-old that wouldn't feel even a little bit jealous.
Yeah. Especially one who just constantly is choosing to not think about himself. Like, you have to have a moment. And there's a lot that piled up that day. that single day, there was a lot piled up. His brother came home, boom, he's married, didn't tell anyone, and boom, he has a job offer that's very potentially great for him. And yeah, it's just like all of that hits in one day, and he's just like, and I'm still here running this building alone thing that I hate. And but I still believe is necessary for this town. It's a necessity. And yeah, anyway, it's just, yeah, that his sacrifice in through this movie is it's, to me, I've always found it pretty easy to understand where he's coming from. Even that big scene where he's really hitting rock bottom, where he's, potentially going to jail, and he's like yelling and screaming at his kids and his wife, and like taking it all out on them and all that. I've Even at that moment, I'm like, dude, I get it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, poor kids, but also like, I get it. I get 100% why this is happening. Really, really powerful moment. And by the way, we haven't really mentioned it as much as we should, but I think we need to continuously be praising Jimmy Stewart in this movie.
Yes.
He is like unbelievably charismatic and charming, which George Bailey is. He's a very charming person. Like the way that Mary acts when she sees him for the first time as a kid and then as an adult, like at that dance. The way that there's like a real magic there, and she's just so gorgeous. She's so like beautiful. But then you look at her looking at him like that, and it's like, oh, I get why she's looking at him like that. He's like the most charismatic person ever.
Yeah.
And then like seeing them dance together, he's got all that charisma and just natural charm. But then he is goodness. Like some of the performances that he has in this movie are out of this world good. Yes, he's yelling a lot, sometimes for comedic relief. But this is a very interesting situation. But there's some of that, but then there's also just some of those tough times. I just can't say enough about his acting in this movie. It's unbelievable.
I agree. When he gets to his low moments, when he gets angry in front of his family, like also like in that moment where he like first like sits on the couch or in the chair, and he's like holding his son, and then he just starts crying. Like, dude, like you can feel it. Like there's so much emotion that he's like pouring into that scene. And just like all of the other like really emotional scenes throughout the film, like just Jimmy Stewart is tapping into like every emotion humanly possible and doing it excellently. And yeah, you like he's like loud and it's a very like dramatized like kind of performance, or like a very dramatic performance, but it works really well for this film, and his performance is just fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. He's unbelievable. And I haven't watched enough of them, but I know he's in several Hitchcock movies, but I did finally watch, we did it. Have we released the Rear Window episode yet?
It's still in the backlog.
We still have an episode in the can.
Yes.
We cover Rear Window, but he is amazing in that, but it's a totally different kind of performance. Different kind of performance. You really see between these two movies, like he's got some range as an actor. He's just phenomenal.
Absolutely. Let's see. Do we get any other comments?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Yeah. So,
can we talk about the humor of this movie?
Yes, actually, that I was trying to remember where I was going to go with this next, and that's actually what I wanted to touch on next. I mean, right off the bat, this movie tells you it's a funny movie.
Yeah.
Like with the angels.
Yeah.
They're already like the angels are making jokes. And I think that the humor was so needed in this film because without it, like then it would just be a really sad movie for
Yes,
like
it
half
would
of
be
the movie.
unbearable. Yes.
Yeah. So I think the humor like really just helps even things out a
Yeah.
bit. But like also a lot of it is just like very natural humor.
Yep.
It doesn't feel like a comedy film or anything like that. You know, you were mentioning the like whenever he's dancing with Mary. I freaking love that scene.
Oh, dude, it's so fun. It's
it's
so fun.
it's like the way it's directed and shot is so good. Like
Yep.
just there's so many people on screen and they're all just like perfectly like in place and everything. And I love like just the way that the floor starts moving and the pool gets revealed and they're just dancing and he's like, oh wow, the crowd's screaming. I guess we're doing real good,
We
huh?
must be doing great.
Like it's got just like such a wholesome sense
Mhm.
of humor.
It
Then
does. It does. It's also it feels, we talk about this a lot with movies. Um like you said it just a second ago. It's a natural humor. It's not a bit. You don't feel like they're ever doing a bit really.
yeah,
It feels very organic and character rooted humor. Um but like I love from the very beginning, you get to know Clarence by I've quoted this a couple of times today. I think it's so funny when Joseph, I guess, is like, that man is considering seriously taking his life, or seriously considering throwing away God's greatest gift. And Clarence goes, "Oh no, his life. I've only an hour to dress."
yeah,
I don't know why I find that so funny. It's the situation is clearly urgent, but that humor right there is so funny. And then he's like,
yeah,
when it pauses on adult George, and he's like, I like him. I like George Bailey. It's just so funny. And then,
yeah.
even even kid George is hilarious when the girl when oh crap, not Mary but the other girl.
Oh,
Um
Violet.
Violet, yeah, when
Yeah,
Vi asks, "Can you help me down?" And George is like, "Help you down," and he just walks
he
away, does
just
not
walks.
help her
Yeah,
down.
so good.
He's like, "I'm gonna have a couple of harems, maybe a couple of wives too." I've been nominated for the National Geographic Society, and he thinks it's like the most special thing ever.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just, some of that humor at the very beginning is so endearing and so warm, and
yeah,
then it like catches you off guard when he gets beaten by Mr. Gower, that very
yeah.
scene. So it's
Gosh,
just like, yeah, but somehow this to me is, it shows Frank Capra's command of the craft. It doesn't feel like a tonal inconsistency for the movie. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It feels very natural that the comedy and the drama flow in between each other like that.
yeah.
So
Hey,
yeah.
honestly, that's life. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
like it has such a good way of balancing things in the way that life would be. Like you
Mm-hmm.
could be making a joke and then next thing you know you're getting beaten up by Mr. Gower. Like
Yep.
um I think another thing that I also really like about the humor is for a 40s film, it's a little bit edgy at times. Like there was one I was texting our group chat and it's whenever George
Oh
is at
yes.
Mary's house and
Yes.
and she's like her mom is like, what's going on down there? And she's like, oh, George Bailey is over. And she's like, what, well,
George
what's going
Bailey.
on? Like, why is he here? And then she's like, he's making violent love to me, mother.
He's making violent love to me, mother.
And
And
like
George
just
is just like, what?
and just like seeing her mom's like reactions to that, but I was like, man, this isn't a 40s movie. I would have never
Yeah.
never expected a joke like that back then. how they got that to fly is crazy.
Yeah, and or even there's that scene when when Violet is walking down the street in that dress, and everyone's like turning around and like, wow, like, and George and Bert and Ernie, which by the way, Sesame Street, Bert and Ernie were inspired by these two characters. But when those three were looking at her, one of them, I think it was Ernie, was like, "Would you like to?" And George was like, "Yeah, yeah." It's just like, "Whoa, okay." Yeah, the movie does go there sometimes. It's really funny. It's really, really funny. Also, I just think every time Clarence is on the screen, it's hysterical.
Yeah.
When he's like, it's the fish out of water thing. It's the, Angel second class. He just says it like nothing, and the guy's like, what? Freaking out.
And then whenever they're at the bar and George is like, oh, he never really grew up, and then he's like, well, how old are you? And he's like, 200. I don't remember the exact number. He's like 253 or something like that, and he's like 54 next year. I don't remember the exact number, but yeah.
Yeah, so all of the Clarence stuff is really funny. But even like at the end, like, it's not, like I said, this is not it's not a quip, it's not a bit, it's just like a cross between the way the character is written and also just Jimmy Stewart being hilarious because he's great. But at the end, when his mouth's bleeding again, he's like, "Ha! Ha! My mouth's bleeding, Bert!" Like, there's something about the way he says it every time. And then even when he's like running down the street, like, "Hey, Merry Christmas, Mr. Potter," and all that stuff is just so, like, it's heartwarming because that moment is so big, but it's also just so funny.
Yeah.
It's not like I mean, there are some laugh out loud moments, but it's not always just like a laugh out loud punchline kind of a thing. It's like this just makes me happy kind of a thing,
Yeah. Gets you smiling often.
It does.
And then it also makes you cry.
Yeah. The smile ends quickly.
Or sometimes you're crying with a smile.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That does happen.
Yeah.
That does happen. But yeah. I don't know where we should go next.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the movie having like so many time periods throughout the entire runtime? Because like it's not like a 3-hour long movie. You'd think that like this would be like an epic, right? Because of how many periods of time it like moves through. But whenever I was rewatching it before we went live, I was like really just kind of like shocked this time around by like how coherent everything feels, despite it like taking place across so many different time periods. Like I feel like they really like just captured lightning in a bottle with this movie, because like I don't know how they did it in such a short run time. And I feel like each period of time that they like move through kind of has like the perfect length of time that it needs. It never feels like you're never not getting enough, or it never feels like it's overstaying its welcome. Like all of the scenes where he's a kid feels like perfectly balanced, but then whenever you get to when he first is an adult, that feels balanced. And then fast forwarding to when he's married, and then fast forwarding to when he has a family, and then like towards the end of the film, I think
the alternate universe,
the
where
alternate
he doesn't
universe,
exist.
yes. Like I just feel like it has just this really great like steady like structure and pacing throughout. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I just found it like really engaging and super impressive this time around.
Well, to your point, you asked that question and I thought about it and I was like, there are a lot of time changes in this movie and I never noticed.
Yeah.
like I've noticed because when you pay attention to the story, but I never really thought about, oh yeah, he was a kid and then he was an adult and then he was an older adult and married and then there was an older adult and now he has 4 or 5 kids and then now Clarence is here and now he's not alive and then now he's back. Like I never really thought about all that being in the same movie and it having that many changes because it feels so natural. It just feels like, yeah, okay, this is the next part we're in now. And I never feel like anything is missing. I never feel like anything's overstaying its welcome. It's kind of like I said earlier, it feels like it's in the hands of a master. It does. Like this film does feel like the person who made it knew exactly what they were doing. And I think I think the fact that I never even considered it. I never even considered, oh yeah, there are a lot of kind of different eras in this movie that we go to. That's a testament to how well put together this movie is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that I'm glad you brought that up because literally I'd never once thought about it. I've thought about like he's a kid and then he's an adult and then that's it,
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, it was just something that like really stuck out to me on this rewatch because like because of the way that it's written and because of the pacing, like you obviously like follow along with the story, like it goes through the different periods of time, but like when I just like actually like sat back and really thought about it, I'm like, this is wild because there's so many films that I've seen that try to do something like this and sometimes they can't even like fit it all in like a 3 or 4 hour long film.
Yeah.
Like I think it's just really impressive. I've only ever seen one other film from Frank Capra, which is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which also has Jimmy Stewart in it, and it's amazing.
Okay, I have to watch that one then.
Definitely put that one on your watch list. It's a really good one. And I think that film came out before It's a Wonderful Life, but I know Frank Capra is like considered like one of the goats. Like I've heard nothing but great things about all of his other films. I really need to like get around to watching some more.
I'm the same way. It's like I know that he did this one and I watch it every year, but I've not seen any others.
Yeah.
But I mean, just looking at this one, I mean, maybe this is a good time to talk about it. Like this movie looks incredible.
Yes.
There are like when the movie was done, actually, no, I think it was during because there was like several back-to-back shots that were just like, oh my gosh, it's just. Question, really quick. Sorry, I'm like mid thought. Do you watch this in black and white or do you watch it in color?
I've never seen it in color.
Okay, me neither. I have actually it in color. I have the DVD that has both versions, but I cannot bring myself to watch it in color. I don't think it would feel right. And I think there's something about the cinematography that is aided by the black and white. I think there are several silhouette kind of moments.
Yes.
Where I'm just like, oh, this just looks so good. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And it's like a very like high contrast kind of look. Like all of the dark tones in the film are like really deep and rich, and it makes it look so freaking good. Whenever I watched it today, because I watched it on Prime, and there's like 3 or 4 different versions on Prime, and so I'm like, which the heck one am I supposed to watch?
And so you worded that. Wow, which the heck one am I supposed to watch?
Yeah, I was just like sitting there. I'm like, well, there's this one. It just says It's a Wonderful Life. There's this one. It says It's a Wonderful Life. There's It's a Wonderful Life unabridged, and then there was like one other. I'm like, huh? But
I don't
one
even
of
know
them.
unabridged.
One of them was in 4K, and so I'm like, all right, I'll watch that. because I didn't think I'd seen it in 4K before, and I have a 4K TV, so I'm like, yeah, let's do this. It's gonna look amazing. I get like 2 minutes in, and then it's in color, and I'm like, oh. So I like quickly backed out of it, and I was like, I gotta watch it in black and white. And I don't think the black and white version is in 4K on Prime. I could be wrong. It didn't have the tag that it like normally does when it says it's in 4K.
Gotcha.
So I was just like, what the
Dang.
heck? But yeah,
that's
fun fact. There's 4 different versions on Prime.
Gosh, I just have it on DVD, and I have the black and white version and the colored version, and I have never been able to bring myself to watch the colored version. I can't do it. It just feels wrong.
I think one day I might, just because I'm like really curious, but like I
will too.
I still don't think it won't have the same effect.
No, like I just think of that shot where the cop is standing in the doorway, like at near the end of the movie.
Yeah,
it's a full-on silhouette shot, and I just don't think that would feel the same. Or like that iconic shot where it's a super close-up on his face with like the blurred background.
Yeah,
and he's like tweaking. and that iconic shot, I don't feel like would feel as good in color, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's great no matter how you watch it. I just want to see it in this way. I kind of feel the same way about that as I feel with Psycho. Like that movie looks awesome.
Yeah.
And it's I don't want to see that in color. I just want to see that in black and white. The visuals to me, like they made it in a black and white era. So that's how they intended it to be watched.
I agree.
And so I want to watch it that way. And so, but no, the visuals in this movie, he like, not only the visual, like as far as cinematography, but like, I love this, like the town.
Yes.
Like I would imagine that's a big set, I guess. I mean, it's incredible the amount of snow they must have had to have. Is that has to be insane. And then like, you know, how they did the there's definitely some points where you can see it's an obvious backdrop, but it's still gorgeous.
Yes.
And I also think in black and white that's going to look better.
Yeah,
than color.
It definitely works a lot better when it's in black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think it looks incredible, and like the town is as much of a character as the characters are. Like there's just so much like vibrancy and life to the town.
At least when it's Bedford Falls.
yeah. Not when it's Pottersville.
Well, there's life to it. It's just sad.
Not the great kind. Not a wonderful kind of life.
Definitely
not. But yeah, I love just how the film looks in general. Like the way it's shot, like I already said it looks incredible. There's so many scenes where there's literally like a billion people on screen, and it just like every character is just blocked perfectly. And like you can just see that like there's so much like intent behind the camera in this film. And I mean, like, obviously there's tons of classic films from this era that look amazing, but there's also a lot that are shot like fairly simplistic. But this one, like, just really like, honestly, it's up there with like Citizen Kane for me, like in terms of visuals, which like I know is an insane thing to say, but like there's just stuff that they're doing with the camera in this film that feels so far ahead of its time. Like it's just directed excellently.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I did a post in our group, and I was like, in case you're wondering, It's a Wonderful Life is still cinema. And, you know, on Facebook, you can only do 4 photos at a time. And I was wanting to do well, I mean, at least where it frames it like, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
I was scrolling through, I typed in Google, It's a Wonderful Life cinematography or whatever, and I was just like, oh, that's a great shot. 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 It was just like, I had to choose. And it's like, man, movies, like, I don't feel like especially with Christmas movies, you don't really like consider the beauty of the shots all that much.
Yeah.
And just the fact that I'm doing that with this post is hilarious. But I mean, it's a really beautifully done movie, and I guess I keep saying it feels like it's just in the hands of a master, a master at his craft.
Yeah.
From the cinematography to the blocking to the tightness of the story and everything and the characters, it does. And I know that like other people went into it too. It's not all him. I know there was several people, It's a Wonderful Life was called something else at first. It was a script that was kind of floating around for a while, and then he got his hands on it, and then a couple of people helped him rewrite it and all that stuff. So like, there's a bunch of people that go into all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, the director has to put all that crap together into one movie, and some people just I don't want to do this. I feel like I have to do this like every other podcast episode, but like some people just don't have it like they used to. Like old Ridley Scott doesn't quite have that tightness as he used to as a director. To me, he's lost the ability to know when too much is too much or when not enough is, when you need something else. And he hasn't had obviously he's got the masterpieces early on in his career, and he's a Hall of Famer because of those.
Yeah.
But like when you look at this stuff, it's just like, no, he's firing on all cylinders right here. This is just like everything about this movie is pretty much perfect. I mean, there's some funny edits now and then. I feel like every old movie has funny edits now and then.
Yes,
from
absolutely.
Mostly limitations of the technology. But I all in all, I think this movie is pretty perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
Although, okay, there's one thing and it's such a nitpick. It's such a nitpick. It doesn't really matter. But every time I watch it, I think it's really a funny thing. And I know why they did it, but it's still funny to me. So, in at the beginning when George is a kid and he's working at the soda shop or whatever.
Yeah.
/ pharmacy, as things were back then. I love that bottle said poison on it. Like, why would you just have a bottle of poison?
Yeah.
Like, it would be something that you wouldn't want to take mixed with this, or something that could be lethal to take if you take too much of it or whatever. But no, it had to say poison on the, like, why would that even be there? Like, what
if the wrong customer comes in, Mr. Gower's like,
he's ready for Mr. Potter to come in.
Yeah, I was about to say he was waiting for Mr. Potter.
I just always crack up at like, why would a pharmacist have a literal bottle of poison like right there? There's no good to this. There's no good that can come of it. That's the only thing that's the only time I've ever taken out of the world at all. Like, I always laugh at that, and then I'm like, okay, I'm back in, but it's just, I laugh every time at that.
Yeah, no, it's freaking funny. But it kind of has a little bit of charm to it. So
yeah. It's like, oh, of course, it's just a bottle of poison.
Yeah.
I
mean, like, I back in the 40s, I heard that's how they actually, like, poison was just labeled poison. It's not like today
with like the bones, like the
X. Exactly. So I guess before we start getting close-ish to wrapping up, what do you think of well, first off, I guess this is like a double-ended question. what do you think of? I'm actually gonna look up the actor's name real quick. Hold on one.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Every
Okay,
person in this movie is
Donna
phenomenal.
Reed
Oh,
as
she's so
Mary
good,
Hatch.
dude.
So
I
yeah,
love her so much. That's how I
yeah,
feel about her. I love her so much. She is perfect. Well, I didn't let you finish your double-ended question, but
yeah.
that's
And then
how I feel
the
about
other
her.
part of that was like, so what do you think of her performance and character, and then also what do you think of the relationship between her and George?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things. If the film doesn't get this right, it's not going to hit the right way. It's not going to hit the way that it should. And I think that the relationship, they did a great job, even with the kids at the beginning.
Yeah,
Not that, I think obviously George is not even thinking twice about Mary at that point. George is like, thinking about exploring and all that stuff. But obviously, like, they kind of plant the seed right there that Mary loves. It's not even a seed. She like tells him in his deaf ear, like, I'm
yeah,
gonna love you till the day I die. Um, and so they plant that seed for us, and as from like I said earlier, from the moment they meet at the dance, it's like just the most natural sparks you can imagine, like in a movie. And
yeah,
the two of them have Donna Reed and Jimmy Stewart have incredible chemistry together.
yes,
I almost feel like it probably wasn't. I'm sure it was written in the movie, but the Buffalo Girls stuff that they're doing, the song,
mm-hmm.
it feels like they were just like ad libbing for half of that stuff.
Yeah,
Uh, Especially when they're like horribly harmonizing with each other, and it's so endearing. Um, but that walk on the way home where they're just they're flirting with each other, and then she tells him about, like, oh, don't throw a rock. I love that. I've always wanted to live in that house. I love that house. And he's like, I would live in there as a ghost. and and I love the moment where she hits the window and does a wish, and he says, what did you wish for? And she looks at him really mischievously and just starts singing again and walks away. Like, it's such a perfectly written moment. It's such a and it doesn't work if they don't have chemistry together. And gosh, they do.
yeah,
And you know, I think the relationship feels so real. And then when they get married and they start to have kids and all that stuff. Oh, by the way, I don't know why I just completely skipped over this part. When they get married and they have the the part that I was like, okay, they are the perfect match together, is when the bank run is happening and they are on their way to their honeymoon and they have to stop at the building and loan and deal with that whole thing. And everybody wants the money that they have there. And George is like, I don't have the money's not here. The money is in your house, and all that stuff. And they're starting to get angry, and she just pulls up the money that they were going to spend on their honeymoon and says, how much do we need? And
yeah,
like, not even flinching, she joyfully does that. Like, what more perfect of a person to be with George Bailey.
yeah,
And then she proceeds to go home to that place that they threw the rocks at and make a beautiful dinner and like this beautiful romantic like honeymoon, whatever, in the rain. Bert and Ernie singing out the window.
yeah,
And then that part where they're like the jump in, there's a bit of a jump in time where they're married and they're opening a new house with the bar owner, cannot remember his name.
yeah.
Um, um, oh my gosh, that's gonna drive me
Oh,
crazy.
Martini.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Martini. They
I was
opened.
like, I was thinking, I'm like, it's
Yep.
a like a cocktail name, but I
Yeah,
couldn't remember which
yeah.
one.
I had the same thought. I was like, it's kind of like cocktail, but also
I
like
almost said
Italian, kind of. Yeah,
margarita.
yeah. I was like, Fazoli? No.
Oh man.
No, but when they're there together and she is like involved with that process just as much as George is, it's just like, man, they've established so well. Like this couple is just perfect together.
Yeah.
And so you see all of that, and then you see them going through hard times together. I just think it's one of the most enduring and most beautiful portrayals of a couple that I've ever seen on the screen.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that would be my answer. I think their love is beautiful, and it's not, like you said, it's not perfect. Like they're flawed people. Mainly George is the big flaw here.
Yeah.
I
He's
mean,
not flawed. It's just George.
she is doing her best. She literally remodeled the house basically by herself, apparently, and is raising 4 kids. I think it's 4 kids. And they're like practicing piano, and like they're like the most well-behaved kids, and George comes in and just starts yelling at all of them. It's like, okay, what do you know? And again, I get why he's doing it, but George is imperfect. The relationship is real. It feels like it's not this like thing where they can't be touched by the tough things in life.
Yeah.
They can be, but at the end of the day, they overcome it, because
They get through it together.
even when George walks out of the door, the kids are like, "Can I pray for I need to pray for Daddy?" And she's like, "Pray hard." Like she's still so loving toward him, even though he really didn't deserve it at that moment. And yeah, and then she is the one that gets the spark going to tell everybody that George is in trouble, and it's just beautiful. I think she's, as an actress, I think she's the perfect person for the role.
Yeah.
And
I
then
agree.
as a character, I love them together so much.
Yeah, very, very well put. I think her performance is great. I think the character is fantastic. There's so many scenes, man, that I can think of that just really like sell the relationship for me. I love that they like tie things back to the house, like to that old house, because like just it's so poetic and beautiful. And the whole scene where they're first at that abandoned house, and he's like, you like, I'm gonna throw a rock through the window, and like, you can make a wish, blah blah blah, like all that. One of my favorite scenes in any movie ever. It's just there's so much chemistry on screen, and it's so wholesome. And I love the dialogue there, especially, is so freaking good. Whenever he throws whenever she throws the rock, and then he asks what she wishes for, and then like she tells him, and then after that he says, like, maybe I'll lasso the moon and bring it down for you, or something like that.
No, so she doesn't tell him right there.
Yeah.
She just walks away and starts singing again, but looks really mischievous about it. He says, "What do you want, Mary? Do you want the moon?
That's right.
I'll throw a lasso and pull it down." Yeah. Sorry, I've seen this movie way too many times.
But yeah, like it's just, man,
It's so good.
It's so good. That scene really sells it for me. I also love the moment later on in the film, like right after they get married, and I'm pretty sure it's after they had helped everyone with the bank, and they're still like, yeah, they're about to, like, they're waiting for the clock to go down, and they're about to celebrate, and then they're talking, they're yapping about and everything, and then they get a call, and then and then she's like, George, your wife is on the line, and
Mrs. Bailey. Mrs. Bailey's on the
She's
line.
like, Mrs. Bailey's on the line. He's like, oh, I need to hurry up and get home. Get my wife on the phone. And then, and she's like, Mrs. Bailey is on the line. And he's like, Mrs. Bailey.
Mrs. Bailey. Oh, my wife.
That's my wife. Like,
yeah.
It's just, it's so wholesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're perfect for each other, and they're perfectly written for each other. I just think,
yeah.
There's not a whole lot more to add to it. I just think they're.
No.
I think Donna Reed is perfect in the role too. I do think it's funny how one of the things that dates this movie is that if a woman hits like age 30 and she's not married, she's an old maid.
Oh man,
things have changed a bit.
Yes.
That always confused me too when I was a kid, because in my mind, an old maid was like an old woman who cleaned things. So I was like, "What? She's a librarian. She's not a maid, and she's young." So I always thought that was weird, even as a kid. But I think there's not a lot of things that date this movie in a negative way. Even that's not negative. Mostly, it's just kind of funny. That's just how it was.
Yeah,
that was a real thought process back then. You're an old maid, but I think there's some other things in the movie too that are funny that I don't get, because it's like the things that they're doing, like hee haw, and I wish I had $1 million, hot dog, and like I feel like there's some things in there that are like, I think it's funny because I love this movie, but I'm also like, what the heck is that? But like, I feel like if we were around in the 40s, we would know.
We would be dying laughing.
Yeah, like why is Sam Wainwright continuously going hee haw? Like, what is that? Why is this happening?
Don't question it.
Just let it happen.
Yeah, just let it happen.
By the way, I love when Sam calls Mary's house and he's like, "What are you doing, George? Stealing my wife?" And as he's got a woman like rubbing his shoulder on the other line.
Crazy. But yeah, I no, it's so perfect. I guess one more like final thing I wanted to say before we start wrapping up. I really like, just the final like kind of that the film makes in regards to like mental health and like, it's called It's a Wonderful Life, and you go through so many sad and depressing moments throughout this film, but when you get to the end, when you get that payoff, I think it's just a perfect way to show that like all of the times that he sacrificed himself to help other people, that he was a part of other people's lives, paid off in the end. Even when things felt hopeless, he stuck through it. He kept fighting, and it paid off. It was worth it. And I really like that. You said earlier in the show, this is just like a very like introspective film to watch, because it really gets you thinking. It gets you thinking about like, what your priorities are. Like, are you getting your priorities straight? It gets you in that mindset of like, man, I need to spend more time with my family, with my loved ones, to help people. But I really like that, the film is saying that, sometimes like our dreams are right there in front of us and we just don't know it. Yeah, like George Bailey wanted to travel. He wanted to do this. He wanted to do that. He wanted to be out of his hometown. But I think at the end of the day, what he really wanted was his family, was his friends, was his community. Like, that was the thing that was most important to him. And he needed that. He needed Clarence to show that to him. I just think it's like just a really beautiful and powerful film, and a powerful thing to say. And it's not in a way of like, oh, give up on your dreams and your hopes, but I think it just has like a very honest approach to like, hey, if you're gonna chase your dreams, like, don't forget about all the important things that are right there in front of you, and also the impact that you have on everyone in your life. Like, I just think it's a really, really powerful film, especially just in regards to mental health and suicide, and just showing that like, no, it's worth fighting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier, whenever you're at rock bottom, a lot of times we will listen to the absolute worst voice you could possibly listen to and believe it.
Yeah.
And, when George has spent his entire life thinking of others before himself, sowing into his relationships around him, his community, helping people who need help, serving other people, and and then he is at a low point, and he believes the voice that is, you're better off dead, or you're worth more dead than alive, or so whatever Potter says. By the way, Potter is a perfect mustache twirling villain. Like, there's no depth there. There is just bad dude.
He's just an all around a-hole.
Yeah, and he's perfect. And of course, he's in charge of even the draft. Like, of course he is. Yeah. So, but yeah, and then to juxtapose that, like what Potter said to him that night, with what Clarence eventually said at the end of the movie in the book that he opened, and says, remember, no man is a failure who has friends. And if it wasn't for him, spending his entire life like thinking about others ahead of himself, and the family that he has, and he I don't know, that thought that he goes from having that moment where he fully believes Potter to the end of the movie where the entire city is helping him in his moment of need. And these aren't just like people in the city. These are like, we've come to know these people in this movie as George Bailey's friends, friends of the Bailey family, and then, yes, there are some random people, but like the bank examiner and all that stuff. But they're whether it's the old housekeeper that they used to have as a kid coming in, like, I've been saving this money for divorce whenever I get married, and like, or even Vi, and Martini and Mr. Gower, and all these people he's touched their lives along the way. His life is so rich because of the friends he has. And so him opening that book and seeing that, and his brother saying, a toast to my brother, the richest man in town. That's not money. He's not talking about money. He's talking about everything else right there in that moment. And it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful thought. And to me, that's the quote of the movie right there, is, remember, no man is a failure who has friends. That is the theme to me of the movie. And I just think it's so beautiful. And yeah. And I think it does go into mental health as well. But I just think like that perspective of, Stop thinking, if you take a step back, don't think about yourself here. Think about everything that you have. Like I think Clarence literally said at one point, you have a wonderful life.
Yeah.
You have to sometimes have someone else tell you that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a cautionary tale too. Like, don't listen to the wrong voices when you're low.
Exactly.
And listen to the right voices, and they'll help you. They'll help bring you back. They'll help bring perspective. You don't need an angel to do that. It can be your wife. It can be your friend. It can be your brother or whatever,
It can be just the random person that you, I don't know, said, I hope you're having a good day too, or those, like, you never know. And like, I think it's just, I think there's an extra emphasis on what you're saying about like not listening to the wrong voice, because what does George Bailey do in this? The first person that he goes to seek for help is his like biggest enemy.
Yeah.
He doesn't go to anyone else first to ask for help. And it's like, imagine how different things would have gone if he would have gone to anyone else.
Yep. No, literally, like if he would have just talked to his wife about it right then, and then they could just go out and do this thing together rather than him like almost kill himself and go on this whole mission where he go on this whole side quest where he's dead, right? Like he doesn't exist anymore. Like,
goes into an alternate reality.
Yeah, literally an alternate reality. He, instead of that, he could have just gone to a friend, like go tell Ernie, like, but like in the moment you get it. You get why he would, 100%. Because like they also planted that really brilliantly in the film before that, because Potter offered him a job not out of the goodness of his heart. It's to get him out of the way, like it's to stop him from being a thorn in his side any longer. If he's working for me, he's not going to be impeding on me anymore. And so, it just gave George like a seed there to think about. And he knows like if there's a low enough moment, Potter is someone that I can go to because he has the money. and in that moment, it's so much money that's missing that's the only person he can conceivably go to. He like, at least in his mind, like there's no option. Like he's not about to go ask people for money. Like that would never enter George's mind. But except for Potter, because he's Potter. So but I think that's one of the things that this film does so well, is that it's every choice that George makes total sense to someone who's in that spot. It's just so good.
It's perfect.
Yeah, and again in that moment when they start walking in the house, I think there's like, it's like a wave upon wave of like, okay, not crying yet. I'm doing good. Okay, eyes are starting to water. Okay, here we go. Okay, nope. Okay, I'm crying. Okay, stop. I'm crying more. And then at some point it just becomes, I'm not just tearing up. I'm literally weeping. I can't watch it without weeping anymore. I don't know when that started for me.
But it's a good weep.
It's a good weep, man. It's a good, you feel good after too. Like it's just one of those that like I literally cannot be moved by this. I can't not be moved by this. Like even if I go the whole rest of the movie without feeling anything, at the end I'm gonna be like a ball, like a puddle on the floor. But beautiful movie, 5 stars easily, not even a thought.
10 out of 5 stars.
10 out of 5 stars, much like Interstellar.
Which is also another film about family and love, Tars.
It's love, Tars.
There was a moment in the stream earlier where you were talking about love, and I so badly wanted to say it, but I held my tongue.
You should have. It's an inside joke to the podcast at this point.
100%.
It's love, Tars.
It's love, Tars. The only thing we're missing in this is assless chaps.
True. Yep. Man, that would not have fit in this movie.
What, you don't want to see George Bailey running around those in the snow, dude?
Potter could do it. Potter's the whole time in his wheelchair, he's wearing assless chaps. That's what I'm in. That's my headcanon from now on.
Oh man.
But yeah, man. I don't know if I have any other thoughts. I feel like we've covered a lot.
No,
I'm sure I could think of something, but it's just it's such a great film.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything else to say other than it's a wonderful movie and it's one of the greatest of all time. Yep. Undisputed. Yeah, well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up now. So thank you for everyone who listened in. I know we had actually like a lot of people in and out of this stream. Yeah. So that was really fun. A lot of consistent viewers and a lot of engagement in the comments, which is a ton of fun. So yeah, we hope that you guys enjoyed tuning in for this. If you're listening on the pod feed, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can join in on our next discussion. And if you're not already, join our Facebook group. It's Banter Fodder, a film and TV discussion group. And that's where we announce like all the new streams that we do. Every now and then we set up polls to ask what film we should stream on next. So it's a great way to just talk with a bunch of other people about movies and TV, and also to stay updated on the pod. And then also give us a follow on your favorite podcast platform. We've got, a few spin-off shows too with Live Long and Banter, which has been on a little bit of a hiatus, but it'll return relatively soon. And then James, our other co-host, has his own show called Criterion Corner, which he just released a new episode of this week on Eraserhead. And it's a fantastic discussion. I was listening to it earlier today, so definitely check that out. And until next time, support your local theaters.
Do it.
Definitely.